Mary last night, and she was like, "Well, I've done radio shows and interviews. You know, it lasted like 30 to 40 minutes." And I was like, "Well, this is a podcast, so it's going to be more intimate. We can sit down and we can talk on a deeper level about the stuff that you're doing, and that's important." Because I know, like, when we go into interviews, you're like, "Okay, you got this long," and it's just rapid
like
fire.
15 minutes.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to you know.
You do leave it. I tell people all the time. You'll leave it saying, "Man, there's so much more I wanted to say," or "Man, like I need to elaborate on that. They just got a piece of that," you know.
I will tell you though, even after like an hour and a half to 2 hours,
the
the same thing will happen.
The
same thing will happen. You'll be like, "Oh, I should have like mentioned this, or I should have said that," but then you'll go back and listen to it, and you'll be like, "Oh, you know what? That sounded pretty good.
Sure.
I sounded like I knew what I was talking about."
Absolutely.
Realistically, I don't. I'm just a dude. I'm just a college student in recovery. I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude. Rob on the radio. Emerald School.
Yes.
Like, how did this thing, this idea, this concept, like, where did it come from? And then, like, what did you initially do? What action did you take to, like, get the ball rolling?
Oh, goodness.
People have ideas all the time, and, like, they don't go that far.
Fear keeps them from stepping out.
Okay, so it was about 2.5 years ago, and I was just at an incredible point in my life where the Butler Dream Team was an organization I took over. And this organization, the lady who had started it at Butler High School, she retired. And she said, "Mary, I'd really like you to take this over." And I said, "Okay, sure, I'd love to. But what does this entail?" And I didn't really know what to expect, but I learned more than I ever thought I could from kids. I learned what it means to give back to the community, to love God, to be community service driven. I never really saw what that looked like until I let kids show me. And it changed my life. And there was a point 2.5 years ago where I came across this incredible film, a documentary called Generation Found. Dives into the best recovery high school in the country. And I said, "Wow, I really want to show this to the community. I think our community, A, could use it, but B, let's get it up and going." But the way it had it set up was you signed up, and it could be like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, the off time for movie theaters, at your local theater. But you had to pre-sell like 70 to 100 tickets. And I was like, "Oh my, I don't think people are going to do this." A, sad for recovery. I don't think people are going to do it. And B, I'm like, that it's like $11. It was at the time like $2 or $3 more than you're just walking in, buying a ticket. So I was like, I don't know if people are going to do it, but let me just give it a shot. And so I went and I posted and said, "Here's the link. Here's the trailer to Generation Found. I really want everybody who can come on out." Well, before I knew it, we had over 70, 75 people pre-purchase. So I was like, "Oh, this is great. I can't wait to see this film." And myself and about 4 other amazing individuals, very passionate. One had lost her son in 2016 to an overdose, heroin and fentanyl. And a couple others were in recovery, awesome people. And one of my really dear friend, she was a teacher also. And we're just sitting around a table at Panera, and we said, "What can we do? We're so tired of being invited to conferences and coalitions and sitting around this long table and talking about what needs to get done. Let's actually do something. But what can we do? Like, there's so much to be done. How do we wrap our head around one thing that we can make a difference?" And that was right before the film was going to take place. And my good friend, like, kind of just casually leans over and said, "Mary, why don't you start a recovery high school?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? What?" And I said jokingly, me and my colleagues at Butler used to joke all the time, like, there's a lot that's broken in our school system. There's a lot that needs to change, but who are we? Who are we that's going to actually ever? We joke, we're like, we're going to start our own school one day. I had no concept really of a recovery high school. And then when that friend just leaned over so casually and threw that idea out there, I don't know what it was, but at that moment we said, "Well, what would that look like? What would that take?" We see the film, and the film, I mean, if you have any type of connection to kids, people in recovery, pain, so like everyone truly, watching this film and seeing these kids who were probably written off as, "You're going to go to jail, you're going to die, or you have no hope," walking across a graduation stage in their cap and gown, proud, and probably with more dignity, integrity, respect, and honor than any other kid that was graduating that year. I said, this is the most beautiful thing, and the reason I'm a teacher in the first place. Let's do this thing. And so I leave there hugging the people I love the most, saying, we're doing this for your son, your daughter, like in honor of, they won't die in vain. And so from that moment, I had this gathering at my house in December of 2016, and I gathered my tightest, closest people that I'd shared this with, and they were like, oh, you need to do this. This is a fabulous idea, great concept, and it's not your grand old idea. There's a whole bunch all over the country, so you don't have to be like convincing so many people. It's just look at this model that already exists. We're going to bring that model and just tweak it for North Carolina. And so this group of people consisted of educators, coaches, young people in recovery, family members that lost people, and some law enforcement. Just great people, key people.
It's a well-rounded group.
Oh, yeah, and that's something we learned from the get-go is you need to get a community behind this. It can't be all people in recovery. It can't be all educators. It has to be everybody from all different components. And so we sit there and we said, okay, we need to be incorporated. And that's where I just simply started. My good friend had started an incredible group called Michael's Voice, and it's for advocacy, awareness, and that's the woman, Betsy Ragone, lost her son. And she had gone through this process already. So I had a really dear friend that I was able to kind of shadow and learn from her process of being incorporated and becoming a nonprofit and waiting those terrible 6 months to find out, am I, approved to be a nonprofit, 501c3 or not. 6 months is a long time. But I was trying to be so proactive and say, well, 6 months, we're going to wait, but I don't want to just sit and wait. We have a lot of work to get done in the meantime. And so I just started recruiting and building my team for a year and a half. And what that consisted of for me was seriously sitting down for coffee with so many people. So many people just grabbing coffee in the morning, for lunch, or in the evenings, and any spare moment I had. And that's been the best part of this whole thing, to be honest. What we were just talking about was meeting people. That's been the best part of this whole journey is getting to know my team. And as I share here, everybody always says at the end, well, how can we help? Well, not just financially. It's actually in this past 2 years, it's been more about time commitment. It's been more about doing some research and doing some things that are pro bono just based on your talents and your strengths. And those people have come through tremendously.
And probably brought folks with them.
Oh, gosh. The minute you share with like 1 or 2 people, they're immediately like, oh, I know 3, 4, 5 people.
Yeah, let me introduce you to these people. Yeah.
And that's totally how,
I have to ask.
Yes.
What was your husband's reaction when you come running home from the movie and he's like, and you're like, guess what we're going to do?
Oh, yeah. He's a numbers guy, and he's a very, we share a lot of things, and then yet we also balance each other out quite well. So he's like, well, you mean you're not going to then retire when you're like 50 or 60? Because CMS gives you a pretty nice planned out, retirement and all that stuff. And he's like, you got to think about all those things. What are you going to get paid and health care and all this stuff? And he's like, just consider all these things and make sure you plan around that before you just jump ship. So he's helped guide me in terms of our financial planning. But he was like, I think you're crazy probably in the beginning. Like, are you really going to go and do this? But the cool thing is he started his own big organization himself. So I think with him starting something quite different, but in essence, very similar process, I think it was at least a little bit understanding of what that was going to take and look like.
Your vision, did it spawn and inspire him to start his own thing?
No.
Or was he doing something already?
It was weird. It was not simultaneous, but I want to say he started QCKBF just a little bit before then. But then it really started to blossom and grow.
What is it?
It's called QCKBF, which is Queen City Kayak Bass Fishing.
What? We gotta come down.
That's
there
in Charlotte?
It is so cool. It's based out of Charlotte, but they travel all over.
Y'all done you've done a lot of fundraising for Emerald School of Excellence. Fishing? Have you done a fishing tournament?
Well, yes. Vinny last year did. It was actually really cool. It was a kiddie rod tournament.
Oh man!
So like, imagine all these like intense competitive kayak anglers, and they have these little kiddie rods, and they're in the kayak, and they're all like, "Let's get the biggest fish and the most and whatever." And so that was a blast. But
what won it?
Oh gosh,
With the little-
craziness. This is a crazy story. The guy that won, he wouldn't mind me saying this, but he usually doesn't cash and win in these tournaments. And he killed it in the kiddie rod event with like, I think it was almost 70. So we do it by inches and it's 4 fish.
Yeah.
So he caught, I think, almost 70 inches with the kiddie rods.
And it's all
Nice.
kayaking, or
all kayaking.
dude, that's
no
so cool,
motors.
man.
Mhm.
That's so
That's-
cool.
It's so much fun. You guys would enjoy it.
That's pretty amazing.
You know that we live in the fly fishing capital of the world.
Yes.
True.
Right
Mhm.
here is like trout galore.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
people come from
Trophy
all over
waters
the
in
world
Cherokee.
to come and
Oh, sure.
trout fish. But there's also some pretty solid bass fishing over in like Lake Glenville and Fontana and stuff.
Mhm.
Sure.
Totally need to like get out there. I haven't kayak fished since
I
I've
haven't
moved
either. But
since I've moved here.
It's so much fun. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you, when we first started, everything's a journey, you know. So the first time, I'll never forget it. We go to, I think it was either Cabela's. Oh no, it was Dick's Sporting Goods. And Vinny was going to pick out his first kayak ever. And he didn't know what to pick. And we're looking at the ranges of like $200. So we're talking bottom of the line kayaks. You should see what he has now. So as he's looking, he's like, I don't know what to pick. I was like, just pick one. Like, I don't understand. So he finally gets one. And it's like you're paddling. It's a game changer when you can purchase a pedal kayak.
Yeah.
Oh my. And then it goes backwards and forwards and the turns and everything. You can get so many places so much faster.
Uh-huh.
Dude, they got them
It's
with like
so
little
cool.
electric trolling motors and
ridiculous.
like glass bottoms and fish finders and all. I mean, they
Glass
Yeah, they
can deck
hook it
'em out.
bottoms.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they
they
hook
have
it up.
decked
It's
out,
ridiculous.
man.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to. Caitlin and I. We're gonna have to come down there
You
and do
need
some
to.
kayaking
Heck
for real.
What
Yeah.
what lake are y'all fishing?
It's all over. So they do
All
like
over?
Wiley, Norman, Watery. Oh my gosh, he'll kill me if I don't
Norman.
know all the lists. Yeah, you were
Oh,
just
yeah.
by there. Norman's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It is.
And the really, really good fishing.
So I wanted to ask you. You remember the
Yes.
first time that we ever spoke?
I do. So this is I think I told you how it all happened. So we have a team of social media people, myself and 2 amazing people,
Taylor.
young girls. Actually, no.
Okay.
Caitlin Harrison and Kat Kiffmeyer. They're amazing. They help me with social media. And they came across your story of you running
Mm-hmm.
for recovery. And they were like, oh, we got to post this story. It's awesome. It's local. We're going to post it all over our social media because one of them is in charge of looking for specific articles for people in recovery
Mhm.
as one of our, and we came across yours. And I said, man, and sometimes I just get pulled to reach out to the person who's involved in the story or whatever. And I just thought, man, this guy's so cool and I love it. And he's in our state. I want to connect. And so I reached out to you on Facebook and I was like, we need to chat. We need to connect and
Yeah.
talk. And from there, then we
I
spoke
got the
on
message
the
right here. I was
phone.
going to share it.
That's so cool.
It's June 15th. You said, you're the coolest for what you're doing. Thank you for making a difference. Once your run is complete, I would love to chat. And we was in Arkansas on the side of the road. I was just telling Steve that story. And I called you, and that
Yep.
it's kind of, now here we are.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I know, right?
So cool. But I remember my girls saying, this guy is so cool. Like, really.
Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's always nice to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Because it takes a lot. I mean, a lot of us, you know, it's doing leaps of faith
Yeah.
all over the place. And
Right.
the truth is, like, how many of us can or are willing to do what you guys did? You know, to just stop kind of everything and pick up and go and do what you did is a powerful thing.
Mhm.
And I get it's the same thing with you and this school, you know. I mean, like you said, a lot of times people, you know, say it jokingly, like,
Yeah.
let's start this.
Right.
But then how many people actually go through the motion of getting it started? And it's something that can, you know, bring so many breakthroughs and change so many lives. But at so many times we're just people live in fear.
You hit
or
resistance
don't
and you
feel
quit.
worthy
Sure.
enough to do it.
Mhm.
Or
Totally. Oh, and there's moments of that, no doubt, of like second guessing.
What's the biggest thing what's the biggest wall that you've hit so far, the amount of resistance? What was that in particularly, and how did you push through it?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say you want to sometimes shake people who are ignorant to what's going on.
You ever run into that, Caleb?
I'm going.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback off that, but go ahead and
Yeah.
finish what you're saying here.
So I'd say to me, it's almost like as you continue to build your team, they're almost to me more of an army of educating. And it's storytelling after storytelling until you can't anymore, but you just keep going. But to me, it's breaking through the walls of shame and stigma and ignorance. because the truth is we're all being impacted in every way.
You explained it very well when I was checking out your website yesterday when you made the reference to purchasing a new car.
Oh yeah, that's
And
my
it's
favorite way to
like
explain
it's
it.
dead, like that's like the most like
What was it?
relatable way that people can actually be like, oh no, she's right, she's totally right. She said you know, like you never notice the Toyota Camry driving down the street until you buy one, and as soon as you buy one, everywhere you look,
Yes.
there's a Toyota Camry. And it's
Yeah.
the same thing with addiction. Right? You're not aware of what's going on in your own backyard, in your own community, until you've been affected by it.
Right,
And then once you've been
yes.
affected by it,
You
every
can't not see
you
it.
cannot see it. It's everywhere.
Right.
I thought that was fantastic.
So I want to talk about, we had an article, Richie Tannerhill and I
Yep.
went and met with the superintendent at Cherokee Schools, met with the principal, and we had talked about making a Cherokee a recovery high school of sorts. Not exactly what you're doing, but
Sure.
where they would have curriculum. They would have to go through those classes before they graduated, so they have the tools.
This was actually talked about before we even met you.
Oh,
on
wow.
the-
Yeah, this was back in
I
the
remember
spring.
when Caleb told me that you had reached out. He's like, "Guess who reached out? And guess what she's doing in her community?" And I was like,
That's
"What?"
crazy.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that was pretty wild.
But we sat down with Dr. Murray, who lost his son to overdose, heroin overdose, and he was all for it. Principal was all for it, and they had a meeting about this, a school board meeting. And so you said like the ignorance and stuff. The people somebody on the school board was saying that Cherokee's never going to be a recovery high school. So because what you're saying is we have a drug problem in our high school, and that just isn't happening. Meanwhile, we have all these people overdosing and on the reservation. We have a lot of people. Stealing. It's a revolving door, and you can see it all around us. And then another thing they said was, the kids that don't do drugs, you're punishing them because you're concentrating on the ones that have the junkies and the ones, you know what I mean, with the drug problems. So they're being cast out,
That's
you know what I mean?
devastating because as an educator, you just know what these kids are missing in their lives, and everything that is recovery is for all of us. Because my friend says it so well, we're all recovering from something, and if we're not right
Yes.
now, we will be. So what better to prepare them with all the tools so when they face it, maybe they won't go down that path because they're prepared.
Right.
We're preparing them. Oh,
And you know what? Okay, so this is going on
Come
a
on,
spiritual
come on.
side because
Sure.
we were just talking about this weekend. Is, being filled up spiritually, and it's like you're being prepared for something that's about to happen. Like you're not just gonna get full and then be like, okay, just float around and I'm full with the Spirit and everything's fine. Like you're being prepared for something that could potentially happen in the future. And it's the same thing as in the natural as in the spiritual.
As
And
in
it's
the natural, so it is in
it's such a
spiritual.
good point because I tell everybody as part of my story when I'm on a panel or anything, that this is all faith-led. I would not be able to do what I'm doing if it wasn't for God placing this on my heart and for the
come
people
on,
that's
sister.
right.
the people around you that truly do fill you up and say
Yeah.
like, I'll never. So we had one very disappointing moment where I thought this was it. We're going to be funded. So excited, right? Well, ended up and crashed and was like, you're not. Almost basically said over and over again, what I struggle with the most is, am I good enough? And they pretty much threw that in every angle you could, saying you're not good enough. And I go to the church where we can't wait to announce where the school's going to be. We're going to announce it in the next week or so. And the church, I go and I'm just praying. I'm like, am I supposed to be here doing what I'm doing? And a lady comes up from the board of trustees at the church and comes up and I met her once. And in the moment, what I needed more than anything else was just to be reassured. And she came right up to me and said, I was meaning to tell you at the end of that board meeting, but then, you had to go. She's like, I needed to tell you. You are so passionate. You are the only one. You're going to get this done. And she just said it in such a manner of, I believed her. Like, I believe you.
Yes.
I don't believe me, but I believe what you just said. And then the whole sermon was centered around, you know, you always kind of feel at times like it was made for you.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Every
But
time.
truthfully,
Every time.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is for me. Thank you. Thank you. And it was just reassuring that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, the people that are with me. And then, you know, it's incredible when your eyes it's clear, your vision is so clear and your ears are ready to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Who comes into your life when you do need to be thrown signs
Yes.
of this is confirm
Searching,
this.
yes, searching for confirmation.
And it's unbelievable that when you simply just seek and you will find, right? Everywhere. It comes up not just on time, but in such a beautiful fashion. Whether it's somebody that throws a statement at you or a phone call or someone you haven't spoken to in months or a message that you reached out to someone and they're like, you're not, today this happened. You're not, I'm like, I just need to reach out and keep connecting. You don't stop. And this man reached out and said, I don't know if this is fate or not, but I have a daughter who's struggling, and like, what are the chances? Like, I just am reaching out to some random people, but they're not so random. And that's the most beautiful thing ever, because I left the most incredible job. I left the best job. Butler High School, I'm sure you saw all over the news. They had the terrible shooting. And it hit me near and dear because I was there for 6 years, and I would have never left that school if it wasn't for the nonprofit and the recovery high school. I'd be there till the day I can't teach anymore. And I left that job to pursue this. So I don't ever look for taps on the, pat on the back, but that is what I think faith does. Faith takes everything that you want and says, no, God has a bigger, better plan. And at the end of the day, it's going to be even more beautiful than you ever thought it could be. But right now, it's scary. And I don't know if I really should, because security and I love this job for what I do. But there's something else. There's something else around the corner if you just trust me. And so by doing that, if more and more people were to do that, oh my gosh, it gives me chills to think about what our communities could really be if we just said, go back to simpler times, go back to looking at each other in the face and running and playing outside and being involved with truly not just you, but getting involved in that person's life. Stop and just listen. And I try to teach that in my health classes now, because I do believe I'm in this school, even if it's for a quick season. I know I'm there for a reason. So I just try to and it's kind of cool because it's health. Yeah. So one of my major units is on alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. So I'm like, this is like ridiculously up my alley to pour in the new things I've learned and into these kids.
And also like incorporate and kind of see what works for.
Yes.
Your
for the
future. Yeah.
No doubt. What's
like,
a little too corny or not going to get it, but yeah.
One of the things, like Caitlin was saying, we need to be filled with the Spirit, and then like you were saying, need to prepare the kids. You hear this cliche of this mantra, like rise to the occasion. And we're sending these kids out to rise to these occasions that they've never seen, they've never performed, they've not prepared for. And so that's one thing that I always try to relate to in my personal training is you can't rise to a level you've never performed at. You can't rise to a level that you've not been trained at. And so that's exactly what you're doing, that level, Emerald School of Excellence. What does that mean? What does excellence mean to you?
Oh, goodness. So here's the cool thing. We messed with names for the school for a little bit. But to me, it's high standards of every point of your life. It's almost, but for you, and that's what I can't wait to teach the kids, is it's about being the best you, not being the best compared to so-and-so.
I'm so glad that you said that, because
Go ahead.
that's one thing that I struggle with is that spirit of perfection, that spirit of feeling, for me, like, some people might struggle, like feeling like I have to carry myself this certain way of being excellent at all times and set your bar. I mean, it's good to set your bar high, but like you just said, for you, just because your bar is this high, I don't.
Share. It's what we do on here, baby.
So I got in my head this morning with this. Last night we were like, we discussed how today was going to play out. We went to the gym and was going to lift because we're both injured. But I got in my head this morning because I started this CrossFit, or done one day of it, and I didn't do the intro classes, but
moving right
I
on up.
hold myself to a standard
That if you don't
That I
don't
let-
perform at, you get really.
I get in my head about it.
Sure.
And to the point where I get emotional and I let my feelings surface to the top. And then I got in my head about it because I couldn't do this certain thing right. And then I kind of, I guess I beat myself up about it more than I was like putting perceptions in my own head, and that's something that I have struggled with a lot. And, in my past is just, like when I hear excellence in my mind, I relate that to perfection. But who's perfect?
Oh, that's
That's good.
Like who is perfect? And
That's
for
good.
as coming up as because see, in my past, I graduated as valedictorian. I always held myself to standards like you have to excel, you have to make these good grades. If you don't, you're going to disappoint not only yourself, but your family, your teachers, all those around you. So, but, so like I might be a little like flustered if I went to this school of excellence just by the name. But then, but for you to say where you
What does that
stand,
look like?
what
Yep.
does that mean for you? Just because your excellence or your excellence or your excellence, it might.
Look different than
Totally.
yours.
Right.
And I think that's where I'm hoping that my story comes through is because I struggled with an eating disorder of being anorexic.
right.
And so perfection, I completely get you, was my biggest thing. So I'm hopeful and hoping that these kids get it right off the bat when they come in to orientation, to learn about the school, is that we are perfect really in God's eyes,
Right.
just the way we are.
Exactly.
And if we can understand what that looks like, because some kids are going to hear that and be like, what is she talking about? But if we can see a bunch of people embracing what that means, I think they'll be able to see what exactly we mean, that pressure, the unnecessary pressure we put on ourselves is not needed. It's almost
Right.
like just breathe. you
Right.
know,
And when you come, sorry, I'm
No,
going to
you're
interrupt
good,
you,
you're
but
good.
you like when you come to those settings and you have that love just pouring out from you and that compassion and that connection, like you said, just listening, like not trying to put your stuff off on them, but listening to what that
Well,
child's going through or
sure.
how they feel, like what is them? What am I? Who am I? What am I? Like what is my level, and
Well, to me-
what can take me to that next level.
What's happening like right now is what the recovery school would be everywhere. So I already, just hearing you talk, I feel comforted because there's other people that feel just like I feel, that you're going to beat yourself down up when
Right.
you're not perfect. That isn't everybody looking at me to be perfect all the time? Well, no, but that's what we think.
Yeah.
And also for the kids to understand they're all going through the exact same things
Yes.
and feeling the exact same way. So just to be able to journey through that tough time together,
Right.
as opposed to how so many of us are in our own head thinking we're by ourselves doing all that, that's just alone. I would want to wake up and do that every day, just sit and share life with someone else who truly gets what my life is like.
Right.
I also think it's going to be like it goes a lot towards like the yourself and the staff members and the authenticity of the message that you're delivering and the contact that you have with the children. Like, it's very receptive. They know that you're in it for the right reasons,
Right.
and you're coming to them at a level that they can relate to, and you're not this like rigid and strict and stern like person that's like, I demand excellence.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
no, like I hold myself to the same standards that I'm asking you, that I'm expecting of you.
That's right.
And they can relate to that.
Oh,
on a-
absolutely.
Like, for example, how old's your daughter?
6.
She's 6 years old, and she's just hanging out over here, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many 6-year-olds would just be like totally like chilling, like doing their thing over there? Like,
Well, she's like a little old lady in a 6-year-old body.
Is she?
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
who's running that household?
Oh, goodness.
Let's get into like the process of like the funding.
Sure.
And like kind of like the fundraising and events and things. So you guys
Sure.
did a lot.
So we've been doing a lot, but I'll be honest, a lot of it's been centered around educating.
Mm-hmm.
And I really firmly believe you can't start asking people to support you financially until they know what on earth you're talking about. And so my first gut was teach everyone you can what recovery high schools are. And then after you do that, through Generation Found, through panels, through community-wide events, because what was originally supposed to be a fundraiser or community event in September, I ended up turning around to everybody and say, can we just make this a community event? Because really the problem is so many families in crisis don't know what exists. Let's provide an event where a family could show up and get a plethora of information for adolescents, and not just recovery support, but the after, because so many families are left like, well, what now? And that's what the Recovery High School excites me, is that it's that piece, that the what now. So we've gone through treatment and gone through recovery, but now you can throw me back in the same setting.
And it's like that can go directly towards like all those individuals that end up going to treatment 3, 4, 5, 6 times because they don't have that what now.
Right.
They don't have that fellowship, that
After.
place to go, that aftercare,
Yeah.
that tribe that they, of
Totally.
local.
And the
local
cool thing
residents.
about that, if we look around in all of our communities, there's some great outlets that are just underutilized resources.
Right.
So if families get exposed to that earlier and just know they exist, those things will wrap back in their minds like, oh, my child just got out of treatment. They're doing well, but I need to supply support
Yes.
and change where they were putting all their energy towards to something really good. But if the parent doesn't know, the kid doesn't know, and that's what the school's also going to do.
What kind of turnout did you get for your?
Oh, so it was really awesome. It was awesome in terms of, so you have to look for small wins sometimes in this world, in this journey. And I didn't know this, but getting treatment, recovery, and prevention people apparently in the same room, that's a win. On my level,
Yes.
I'm like, that's not good enough, but cool if that's a win, because we're so far behind of what we need to do. That's a win in many people's eyes. So we had so many resources. I'm talking maybe 50 resources that were a wide variety for families. What we lacked was families with kids showing up.
You lack that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I mean, almost every recovery event I've ever been to across the state and across the country, that's what you lack. You get the same folks that are your the go-tos. They work hard. They'll show up for you, but they already know what you're trying to teach. They already
Absolutely.
are
The
there.
advocates show up.
They're there. Oh, the advocates show
Right.
up all the time. But now we need the families, and the families are afraid. The families are that stigma that don't show up with a police car in front of my home, because then everyone in my neighborhood's going to know we have issues, instead of, no, we're trying to be proactive with what's going on because we all have issues. So
So where do you start with that? How do you get them?
so here's what I continue to do. It's so much prayer of direction. Where do we go now? Do we ask for crazy amount of money from these people, these people, these people? Do we educate these people, these people? Where do we go? And I swear it's simply based on the people we meet and the time that we meet them. So focused, I'm comfortable and flexible with changing focus as I think it's appropriate for moving forward, based on not my plan, but God's plan. So with that being said, we've looked to certain people and certain folks for funding. Well, when those doors, or you got certain vibes of, this is not going to turn out to what it needs to be, I need to backtrack and go in a different direction, we're now looking strictly, truly, for private donors that have been impacted, organizations that are willing to come behind it, that are not with these strings attached of, here's how we think you should do it, but we believe in you and your team because you got it going on, and get recovery for kids. Here's the funding. Show us what you can do in 2 or 3 years. Have faith in us, truly. Because what great thing ever got started in the first place without someone with the means taking a leap of faith with you,
Right.
truly. And so it's finding those folks, and I'm willing to take the time to find those folks, because we've found it. Grants will come. They will come. But we have to show proof of success and growth. And the only way to do that is to get open already.
So wild.
And so the Recovery High School director of Archway, she convinced me when I left there. So we went to go and visit in March. That was the best experience ever. To see a Recovery High School, to talk about it on paper is one thing. When you go and see these kids, helping kids. So imagine a kid who was like a year and a half sober, helping a kid who was like a week sober, going through a tough day. I literally watched a girl say, come out with me in the hallway, let's reset the day. This worked for me when I was going through the exact same thing you were going through. Let's go out in the hall. I was blown away. blown away, but not surprised, because I've seen what kids can do if we give them the tools and the leadership roles. So when we came back, we literally said, we're not waiting for the perfect scenario. We're not waiting for the gazillion dollars to build a beautiful place that I do believe these kids deserve. We need to just get open.
Yeah.
And so as we were diligent, we were true, an amazing screening of Generation Found opened up a door to this incredible church. And the second floor of this church is perfect. It's like a T, and one hallway we'll start with, but it has room for growth. It's 6 to 8 classrooms. It's literally, it couldn't be a better fit. And it was the first place we came across. And I'm like, my husband will tell you, I'm the worst at looking and price shopping.
Yeah.
If I like something,
It's
I want
yours.
it, that's it. I'm going to get it. And don't stop me. And so that's what happened with this space. So funding has been a beautiful thing, because we've been able to get a lot of private dollars and people who believe in it. They're throwing a couple hundred, at most a couple thousand at it to keep us thriving as a nonprofit. We know that's not going to open the doors, though. We need somebody who has the means, that wants to give back to the community and wants to take a leap of faith with us. And I do believe in our state there are many people that are willing to do that. They just may not have heard about us yet.
Sure.
And so to me, it's finding every opportunity to share, to talk, to educate about recovery high schools, because they are truly going to change our communities. Kids are going to change our communities if we let them. And so we just need to provide as adults the resources to make that happen.
And there's definitely a demand for this in the Charlotte area.
Well, let
And
me
there's
tell
money there.
Oh, absolutely.
The private money.
There's definitely private money, but I've actually sat down with the DEA and said this whole pitch of what we're doing. He's like, this is fabulous. I think it's great. But what scares me is you say you're going to max out about 100, 125 kids. He's like, right now, I think I could fill your school 10 times. And that's from one perspective.
Yeah.
That's not from the adolescent treatment world. That's not from the...
That's not from DCF. That's
no,
not from... Yeah.
it's from pretty much the courts. And I said, holy cow. I said, I don't doubt it. I said, but guess what? Here's the good news. We don't hope to just open one. We hope to create we're just a catalyst for change, that we can create a spark in other communities to say, here's how we did it. Don't follow it exactly. Do what you need to do for your community, but here's the steps so you don't have to go
recreate it.
Yeah,
just
to help
making
you
it harder
out.
on yourself.
But your doors aren't even open yet.
Right.
And you're already doing that. Was it Wake Monarch?
Yes.
She saw what you're doing, and she's like, I'm gonna do that here.
Yep.
And she's kind of like, you guys are working together a little bit on some things.
Absolutely.
So it's like,
It's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
She saw a video of, I believe, Taylor, the girl, she's blonde hair, beautiful girl in recovery. She saw her story, reached out to her, and said, what are you guys doing with Recovery High School? It's amazing. She shared her story about her son, and she's like, I want to get this going. And so, yeah, it's already happening, which is the goal. That a lot of people in this world, I'm sure you guys could attest to this too, are so protective of their whatever it is. Of like, I don't want to share too much because I'm afraid people will steal my idea or steal this, or I don't want to collaborate because I'm competing.
Right.
It's like, do you understand how huge this is? That there's no level of amount of resources that can be out there for us to really, truly serve everybody we need to.
Right.
So stop competing, stop being so afraid of speaking truth and sharing what works to help someone else. You know, don't hold it in. It's a great gift. Share it with everybody.
but that happens so often.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Specifically in this field.
Yes.
It just happens so often. It's hard.
So that's
to,
the other thing I'm trying to shake people. Like, quit it. Be there for each other, and let's bring this resource to life and then some.
So you're planning to open in fall of 2019.
Correct.
Which is like 8-10 months away.
Yeah, it's closer than you think, and
8-9
these months are
away.
flying. So we're going to do this big fundraiser in February, the most legit we've done so far, where we're trying to gather the right folks in our community to come to the table to hear about it and to pour what they can into this so we can open. We know that event won't be the only reason we open or don't open in 19, but my faith is that continuing to share, this will happen. And the other thing I tell people is like, are you going to feel like disappointed or like it's failed if you don't open in 19? I'm like, well, heck no. If it has to wait a year to grow and be even better than it would have been in 19, then so be it. I literally tell my friends all the time, we're going to get this thing open or die trying. So it is what it is. If I have to wait another year, I wait another year. But the goal is to get it open because we know of families that need us yesterday.
So you've been like working through this funding and planning phase of the project, have you like looked at like how much have you looked at things like curriculum and recovery support, staffing,
I love
screening
talking
to
about
get
that.
into the program? Like how much of that?
Sure. So I'll touch on all that. So we've, over the time of building my team,
How many people's on your team?
Oh, it's so cool. So it's a solid 70, 75.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, you know how people's schedules are. So we typically, once a month when we meet, we have a solid 40 to 50 people out of those 70, 75. And sometimes it varies a little bit, but you have your consistent ones that show up every single time.
How many's on your board?
So my board is 10. The board of directors is 10, but our committee is huge, and it needs to be because we've split up over time into 3 solid committees.
Right.
So we have one that tackles admissions and curriculum, one that tackles fundraising and marketing, and one that tackles the continuum of care. And those each have people run these things, and they really truly create agendas and specific assignments to take place between each meeting, because I'm all about, we can't just show up and be what I'm anti-meeting and not doing anything about it. So that addresses those. And then I'm so excited because the admissions and curriculum team, they've dove into Archway's information, Archway Academy, and all the recovery high schools.
Where's that one at?
That's in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And they're incredible. They'll share everything just to help you, basically what we hope to then do to other folks and help them through the process. But my brain, can you help me? What were the other things you mentioned?
Staffing, curriculum, screening to get into the school.
So sure. Okay, so we have this incredible guy on our board named Steve Winkleman, and him with some other folks who just get kids in recovery, because that's a special tool, gift that you have. Not everybody gets kids, but says they get kids. And so he has really helped us to better understand what that process looks like. Kids have to want recovery to be in a recovery high school for it to actually work. Granted, you're not always going to see that. You have to almost look deep into the potential of like, they truly, even if there's a glimmer, a spark that they want recovery, you got to hold on to it and pull it out and see what you can. And some kids, it's going to be for us a leap of faith. Like, I don't know, but I think this kid is going to get it and dive into it. Sometimes we might go for that and then be like, there's process for everything. There's a contract. If you break certain rules or you do different things, you're going to be on a contract, but we're not about kicking kids out the minute they reuse, because that's part of recovery for some people. And for the recovery high school, you just can't, we wouldn't be doing our job if a kid reuses and they're open and honest about it and they don't get caught doing it. There's 2 different ways we look at it, and most recovery high schools look at it. You either get caught or you're open and honest and you're sharing what happened. I really, this happened and I really want to still stay here. I really want to work my program. It happened. If you're willing to meet the kids and where they are, that's such a different environment you've created for them of openness and honesty and trust and all that stuff. So the screening process is critical, though, because if you just let any student that's just struggling come in, the recovery high school is not going to work either.
That's right.
So you have to have certain balance of standards with love, care, and compassion, kind of meshed in with a special individual or a few that can read people well, that can listen to their gut, have a deep conversation, and get so much from that student and the families too. That support network is huge, and it's part of our school, is so that the families are then supported also on the weekends and afterwards, and counseling and stuff like that. Staffing, I'm such a firm believer that you can't just put out for a recovery high school job description, apply. You just can't, especially in my first few years. So what we've tried to do really hard is find people who are seriously interested. And we've created these informal gatherings, but they've been work sessions, but fun. You just sit around and have coffee, lunch, dinner, whatever, and there's like maybe 2 tasks, and it's been the fun stuff, like creating the school calendar or creating the bell schedule and what the classes would look like. How long would the classes be? Who would be in charge of what? And that's been with about 5 or 6 people. And we've developed a relationship. And that's what I feel is what a staff needs to look like for recovery high school, is people that get each other. And almost like how some people will say everybody's different with their beliefs about pre-marriage and living together and stuff. But I know that my husband and I lived together in an apartment for a year before we got married. And it was a game changer for just dynamics of hashing out things that you don't want to hash out in your first 3 months of marriage, but people do all the time. But I look at it with that concept for creating an environment with staff that we're tight and we get each other and we know what ticks and we know what not to say or how to say it, just so that we're not in an environment that is already going to be high stress and emotion filled, to create us in a strong environment walking into it.
You don't want to learn those team building skills on the go in front of the kids.
Totally.
Are you listening? I mean, like,
are you listening?
I'm soaking it all in.
Because we're getting ready to open up our recovery house, and so I'm really.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah,
It's all
iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
absolutely. It's all really for the same thing.
I'm just kind of taken
Fantastic.
away. Like, it just seems so unreal that this is happening, and it's not only just happening around the country, but in North Carolina. And I've got so much going on in my head right now, because it is, it's like, I want that here. We need that here. I don't just want it here. We need that here. Because when we've been trying to, the youth, it's the youth is always like, we want to work with the youth, and it's like we keep getting pushed back. But then it's like, when we have youth that's reaching out to us saying, pray for me, I'm going through a hard time, my mom is in jail, I'm thinking about going to bond her out, and this 16, 17-year-old kids, that's what they're going through, but our community is just blind
the
to
leadership,
it.
Is just like.
But then to hear you talk is so inspiring, because it's like,
it's possible.
Yes,
we have to,
possible.
and what I see is we're getting pushed out of the schools. I'm getting pushed out of school because I've got 2 felony convictions.
Right.
They don't want me, and there's certain parents saying, I don't want you around my kids. I don't want you praying with my kids. Blah blah blah. And so we've been talking about doing something outside of the schools and inviting the kids to come to that. I had a girl message me last night, a 16-year-old girl. Who said that she had tried to commit suicide a couple months ago because she sees her mom. Her mom's got her best friend on drugs who's in high school. And so this kind of stuff happens all the time, but yet we have leadership.
It's so true. And I'll tell you, the other thing that you can tackle or consider is the alternative peer group. So Houston has it going on. Texas has it going on. Some, even like Massachusetts and California. So you have these alternative peer groups. And that's kind of what it sounds like you guys would love to be a part of, because it's youth driven. It is basically like your AANA, but it's for kids, and that just has to be tailored differently than going to a traditional AA or NA meeting, because a kid who's 15 and a guy who's 40, 50, they'll get each other to a degree, but then it stops. But if a kid who's 15 and 15 shows up to a recovery meeting, but the cool thing about APG, which is why I dive into this recovery high school thing and the APG thing, it's not just about getting recovery meetings. It's taking that wonderful work and tools into action. So your APGs could be meet Wednesday nights, but Saturdays and Sundays we're out in the community giving back, involved with community service projects.
That's what we do.
It's all over Texas, and if you guys are already involved in that, that would be such a cool way to get outside of what is saying can't, because I'll tell you what, before time we're done with this work, I believe the schools, the communities that are giving us the pushback are going to be, hello, you're amazing. This works. And that
I've
happens.
said that a lot.
Well, you guys are already doing exactly what she
The
said,
community service,
just without that
especially.
structure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen that movie?
I
Generation
haven't. He
No?
has. Y'all
Richie
showed
it up there.
I didn't get to watch it. no.
One of my buddies who goes to school at Western now in the social work program, he worked at one of those in Houston, where he was
Wow.
originally from. We did the movie showing
We
at
should do it on the
Western.
reservation.
We did the movie showing at Western last year, and he was like, "Yeah, I worked with that kid. I worked with that kid." Like, and it really it was just an
That's
awesome
powerful.
experience to see James Skelton. He was on the podcast a while back.
That's
But yeah, you guys are already doing the work.
Yeah,
you guys
you
are already
have
doing
Generation
that.
Found. on our reservation.
You
and
guys
invite the
showed it
community
at
out.
what,
Definitely.
ACC or something like that. I haven't got to watch it, but I've heard that it's
And
You can
amazing.
go
I've not
on-
got to sit down and actually, because I've always been involved in,
Mhm.
speaking to the kids and stuff, so I haven't actually got to sit down.
And the girls at Smoky Mountain are already kind of asking for this stuff.
Monica and Chloe.
Oh yeah,
Monica and
Wow.
Chloe,
the
they're like,
amazing
oh,
Monica
yes, we
and
should do
Chloe.
that.
Love
We're
you guys.
sponsoring their event again. They had
Ooh, that is
Smoky
good.
Mountain High School Mental
Showing that
Health
video.
Awareness Project.
two
They had
young
a
la-
week.
Wow.
two young ladies in the high school are
Yeah.
like doing all of this mental health and substance abuse awareness,
Yes.
like
wow.
bringing
That's
it on
powerful.
and raising funds on their own for NAMI, and like they're doing some
Way
Yeah,
to
serious
they're
do,
doing
work.
some
Generation Found
That would be a great way.
showing up there.
Mm-hmm. And they talk about in the film APGs.
Yeah,
So
it's in
exactly
there.
what you're.
I'd write that down. I mean, I'm serious.
Just-
like, I'll forget about
Yeah,
that.
just watch the movie and it'll be very clear.
It's all over.
Um, Their vision is very similar to what you guys are doing, to provide a quality education to students through faith,
Mm.
fitness, and fellowship. Does that sound familiar, Caleb and Caitlin?
Never heard of it.
No.
Never heard of it.
Faith, fitness, and fellowship. And I like just the beginning is, it's to provide a quality education.
Mm.
That's first, right? Because that's like, I mean,
Knowledge
is
is power.
knowledge is power. Just like it's to provide for these kids what they couldn't do in regular traditional schools.
Absolutely.
What's how does the fitness and faith?
Oh, well, it's what, I love sitting and talking with people that like get it, because when you see and feel what exercise can do for you, when I see that and know what it does as as an adult, and then to see kids who are very involved in sports, but may or may not have the leadership that's teaching them those intricate teamwork, all of the amazing things that sports and team sports truly do create for you out on a field, a court, whatever. They may or may not have a coach that really gets it, but the fact is, when just being involved in it, you have to learn how to communicate well, and if you want to be successful.
Mhm.
You have to learn how to be selfless if you want to be successful. And all of those skills, to me, are so important to involve the kids at the school in, whether it's intramurals is one thing we think about. The other thing for me is I've done a lot of research and study. I had about 2 or 3 years where I was really passionate about what exercise actually does to your brain.
Dude,
It is the most powerful, the coolest things ever. So if I could teach kids, because kids and most of us even don't even truly know how incredible our bodies are and how they work and operate. So not only is it important for them to, I think, know what addiction does to their brain so that they understand what's happening, but also to say, well, what if we have a free tool that all of us have access to anytime we want, 24/7, and that's outside.
Yeah.
Like, you can just go run. Like, you can go do
Exercising.
push-ups. There's so much stuff I want to teach these kids that they can do, even if they don't have the money for a gym membership, all the things, that's realistic that a lot of us can't afford or have time. What if we taught them a 20, 30-minute activity they can do on their own in a small 5x5 space or outside at a park? So that's where the fitness is. I want to teach them what it does to the brain, how it prepares them really for optimal everything, optimal learning, optimal relationship building, life, and self-esteem, and just confidence in general. That's really, to me, what exercise does. And to think down the road, what if you move to another state and you don't know anybody, but now you are in decent shape and you have enough confidence that I can go to a pickup game, or I can go to the park and meet
Run a
someone
club
and join a group and join a team and just go for it, because we're all just kind of going for it as an adult that thinks we're still like 17 years old, but we're not anymore. And we go out and jump in and play, almost teaching them to jump out and play is going to, I believe that it can save their life. So that's the fitness part. Fellowship is just the peer-to-peer support, getting each other because they're going through the same exact thing. And that's all day, every day. So Recovery High Schools, it's cool because it's education, but it's recovery support throughout the day. But the minute they walk in, there's like an hour of, I just want to like pour into each other. Just pour into me. Fill us up. They call these things in Houston Fill Up Fridays, where they'll actually go
wow.
before the weekend. They'll go and they'll do community service stuff. They'll do random acts of kindness out in the community. And that fills them up for the weekend, because we know that's probably the toughest time for them to come back Monday and share all those good stories.
Because they don't have
Right.
that peer-to-peer
They
support.
don't have it over the
Yeah.
weekend, right?
Are you in the curriculum?
Mm-hmm.
Are you teaching them those types of skills to be a peer?
So here's the cool thing. What I think could all agree here too is that what we lack in public school is not only trades and different skills and tools that let's redefine what success looks like, please. It's not if you don't go to a high-level college university, you're not good enough. It's you might go straight from, I'm sorry, but I'm a teacher and I don't get paid a lot. But if a kid and I have a degree, what if a kid goes straight from high school and wants to go start their own business or wants to go and work with cars or whatever that doesn't require a higher level
College degree.
Yeah, and you can actually make more money than me. And not that everything's about money. I'm the opposite believer of that, but that could be a different level of success for a kid to think I can't do that because of why? Like people telling me I can't do that and be successful. So it's that for curriculum, but it's also teaching them life skills. How many kids, this is sad, but we're not teaching script anymore. So many kids, granted you don't use that anymore to like we used to, but a lot of kids don't even know how to do their signature because they don't know the letters of cursive. So teaching them those skills, teaching them how to balance a checkbook, teaching them financial planning, teaching them truly the engagement of the communication that we're lacking because of our devices all the time. So every other day in the middle of the day, we have something called Simply Life Skills class.
I love it.
So it'll be a fitness regimen, life skills, community service, peer-to-peer support. To me, I just want to go. Like, forget running the school. I want to attend.
You're signing up.
Can I? Yeah. Where's
For
the
For
time?
real, I know. I
want
think
to
we'll
go.
go to maybe to Charlotte, baby.
You're totally onto something with that. I work at like just a little retail kind of part-time job while I'm in school, and at the end of the night we have these little like checklists. You know, you have to like sign off that the floor was swept or the bathrooms were clean and whatever things were straightened up. And like we hire all these college kids, 18, 19, 20 years old, and like the first like week they're like, I don't know how to just like make my initials on this little sign-off sheet. They're like, what do I write? How do I do that? Simple things like that. I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with this tech stuff, this tech boom. I'm fascinated with how, because there's so much negativity out there, because there's so many bad habits that can be learned and picked up, and like keyboard tough guys and things like that. I'm fascinated with learning, discovering, figuring out how we can use this type of information to our benefit, right? How we can integrate that into the world of recovery and wellness and growth and all of those things. Have you thought about any of that kind of stuff? Like,
yes, more so now than ever while I'm teaching middle school kids, because I really believe that as a society, we've been thrown incredible gifts that we don't know how to use.
That's right.
So
right.
I feel like we've been thrown, here's an iPhone, here's a really awesome laptop, here's this incredible iCloud and all this stuff. But what do you do with it? So if you're thrown a cool tool with no guidance, you're going to abuse it. And that's what I think we've done. So exactly to what you said, what I would love, and we have some cool resources, and I think they'll come to even more when we open, like really awesome music companies and recording studios. Like, how stinking cool to have kids explore what is there, but being taught how to use it, as opposed to, imagine you just went in, closed the door, and said, figure it out on your own. Oh, they'll figure it out, but they'll use it for the craziest stuff that's not as much useful as it is just to touch
Destroying
stuff.
them, yeah.
So to me, that would be the most amazing thing, to create almost another small team of tech-specific gurus who not just trust the process, but they really truly want to see our next generation not abuse it. So people like yourself, like, this is the coolest thing ever, and it's a growing art now with podcasts. So what if we really taught kids how to do a quality podcast to educate with the young people?
Are you offering me a job?
Hey, that's
How cool would that be, though? Like, for real.
Yeah, and it's changing so fast. Like
It
that,
is.
you're just scratching the surface with that, with
Sure.
things like augmented reality and VR and AI and so many things that there's going to be a time where like this stuff takes over, right? Like to the point where like people are going to lose significant numbers of jobs.
Well, you see it already.
It's happening.
People don't have to shop at the grocery store anymore.
No, you don't.
Like that blows my mind.
And so like people are going to be looking for jobs, and how can we take this thing? Like that's why I started this podcast, was because like I was fascinated with it. But how can we take these things and use them to make an impact? How can I build a online recovery community that listens to our podcast and engages with each other? So many episodes on our Facebook Live, like we're doing a podcast, and down below in the comments, in the live comments, people are like supporting each other and talking about things that like we're not even talking about, or we were talking about 20 minutes ago, and they're still talking about, you know, this certain treatment center that we're trying to get whoever into,
and then
like,
they friend each other, and they carry on these
it's like it's creating this.
You're becoming just a connector of people.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening, and it's just fascinating.
And positively, you know, like you said, you give them these devices and everything, because we have 7 billion people in the world, and probably like over 5 billion are actually on some kind of form of social media. But yet we have the most anxiety, most depression, most all, you know, because they're not using them in a positive manner.
True, so true.
I'll tell you what, I'm ready to go bless some people now.
I know.
For real.
It talked about both in the movie and on your website about regular drug screenings. I'd like to talk a little bit about that and like what the process is for what you envision the process being.
Sure.
Because I do understand the importance of that, not just in a high school role, but like across the board, specifically when it comes to like sustaining long-term recovery.
Sure. So going back a little bit to what you said, where, you know, we hold ourselves as educators or professionals at the school to the same standards as the kids. So as on paper, random and frequent drug screenings would be for the kids, would also be for the staff.
Okay.
So that we explain, like, we're going through the same process as you, because we want to make sure we're in the best position to serve you. And so I've really talked to the highest quality directors of these recovery high schools around the country to ask these very same questions. Like, what do you guys do? What do you find to be successful? And we've bounced around with this because there is one recovery high school that doesn't do any. And for years, they're the longest standing one in Minneapolis, called Pease Academy. And they, unless they've changed things, but last time I spoke to them, but they said the environment that they've created, it's not that it's a snitching environment, but kids are there truly that, you know, this person has gone through a tough time, or this weekend wasn't, and they were able to not use drug screenings.
So you're saying that the kids would tend to come forward themselves?
They would come forward themselves, or they'd have a community of support that would go to an administrator or somebody and say, I know what happened with so-and-so, and I think you should have a conversation. So they're always supporting each other, but most of the other recovery high schools do offer some type of drug screening. So the way we envision it, if we were to have it at our schools, what we're leaning forward with, is that it would be based on how often or frequent it would be based on time in sobriety. So obviously, as you're, it would be like anything else. I almost hate to say this, because I've been through a treatment program where I sometimes hate the process of earned and getting rid of things, but it really truly matters and makes a difference in the long term when you look at big picture, when you do graduate and leave, that you do need to earn things, and you can't just be handed something because you're present. You need to work, and it needs to be
no participation medals.
Yeah, we're not. It's true. And being a PE teacher and a sports person, that me and my husband joke all the time about that.
What's the joke?
No, we literally will say, like, it's absolutely absurd that if these kids show up and they get trophies when they are in 11th place. I'm sorry.
She says that with her 5-year-old in the room.
That's right. First place is where you're striving for. No, but we see that, you know, it is important because we do want the environment to be safe. We want the environment to be of thriving in recovery. So we know that if kids are not sober, we need to be aware of what's going on with the kids.
And how do you handle a positive drug screen?
How do we handle it?
How do you respond?
So it's a great question. What we had talked about earlier about the being caught versus open and honest, it really will depend. This is what's cool, what I like about it. It's all individualized. So if the kid comes up to us before their positive test and is upfront and says, look, this is probably going to show up, be like, look, you need to tell us and we need to feel out where you are right now. Where are you at? Are you wanting to stay here? Are you feeling you can't control like what's going on? Maybe you need to consider going back to treatment. You know, let's gather your resources, because that's the other thing about a school that always should have been, is that it's a community of resources that connects to that one individual child's community and resources. Right. So whether it's their therapist, their parent, and find out what's going on before you really start making major decisions. Mm-hmm. Once you have all that information, some kids will be on a contract and say, look, if this is a behavior contract / they could even be maybe on, it's like academic / recovery, a recovery contract, and saying if this doesn't take place by this time, or if you break this contract, we have another conversation. And that's still, for some kids, still breaking that one contract might not be enough for them to be out. It might have to be extreme for some kids to be removed from the school entirely. So that's what's going to be hard for me to like spell out on paper, because it may really be very different for every kid. But we want to make sure the forefront is we want to have the best interest of these kids and the families, and overall sobriety and recovery for the kids in the school. So if there's any type of concern for not keeping the other kids safe, that may come into play. The support at home, or the reality of maybe needing to go back for more deeper care is an option. And if they go back to treatment, absolutely can come right back to the school.
Who's making the decision? You have a team of advisors.
So that's where so we have the educators, and the biggest thing we learned is in the beginning, if you can, is have the educators stay in their lane. They teach. They can definitely talk to the kids and be there for the kids, but they're not talking about recovery stuff. They're there to teach academics. But then the recovery support, that's where our recovery support comes in. They're meeting with these kids regularly. They're involved in their recovery support daily activities. So they're also going to be so engaged with these kids and their radars and the mood changes and just such a read on them that we'll almost know, hopefully, before anything actually does occur, because of the relationship building that's taken place.
You had a question a minute ago?
No, I didn't.
Okay. My bad.
Well, I did, but we're past it.
Come
Go
on.
ahead. No, I was just gonna say that when she was talking about the earning, it just takes away that sense of entitlement. You know, sometimes you can come when you step into a place of bettering yourself. Sometimes, you know, people let that go to their head, like I'm entitled to this. I should be able to. And
tell her why
we
have such a problem with that in our community. The entitlement. Per cap.
Money, because a lot does get handed to us.
Our tribe, free health care. You know, they pay for schooling. No matter where you want to go in the country, if you earn the scholarship, they pay your tuition, right?
Yeah, they pay even if you don't get that scholarship.
Oh right, yeah. And we get we're getting what? Over $6,000, or right at $6,000. So we get $12,000 every twice a year, just given to us by the casino.
Wow.
So 18-year-old kids are getting over $100,000. Well, now it's not that now. It's make it increments, $25,000 increments or something.
Wow.
So now the kids are coming out and they're like,
they don't have to earn that.
Everything should be handed to them.
Wow. That's a game changer, because when you face real life stuff, it doesn't work out that way.
Absolutely.
So
and
again,
then,
not preparing them.
You know, you have you go through these struggles, or you have these times where you know, life smacks you in the face, and then you have to go to treatment, or you have to do, and then it's like the treatment centers or the recovery high schools or these different places are trying to instill that back into your head that you have, you know, you got to go through life earning
generational
things. You know?
Stuff.
It's not just
you're trying to go
you.
back, right? That's hard work.
Well, the thing, so I talked to the chief about this. Sorry, did I cut you off? I talked to the chief about this, and he was saying, you think about the Native American people, way before per capita, you know, all that started, you know, coming into play. we was fed by the government. Like our ancestors would go to the white man, would go to the government, have to get. Did I just?
No,
So,
you're
well,
good.
that's what he
That's what
said.
they
That's what he
said.
said. That's how it was. They had to go to the government and get their food. They had to go to the government and get their groceries and whatnot. And so, hundreds of years of unlearning these behaviors and this entitlement of thinking like. And he said, whenever you get you have a plumbing issue in your house, what do? What do we do on the reservation? We call the water department. Anybody else has to call a plumber, has to
right.
hire a plumber. Well, we
Or
just call.
fix it yourself.
Yeah, fix it yourself. We just call the people in the tribe and they come and fix it.
Wow.
So I mean, it's we're really up against.
You're
Yeah.
fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah,
Dang.
for sure. Sorry, I had to-
But
that
not,
was-
a-
but not an impossible.
That's
one.
right.
Not impossible.
That's
That's
right.
right.
How much work have you put into, and what type of relationships have you already built, and are you working on building to what happens next to these students after they graduate your high school and they want to go off to college?
That's great.
What types of relationships do you have with collegiate recovery communities, and like what do you envision that transition looking like?
Oh, so that's great. So part of the team building process that I've had of making my team is that now I've connected. So two of my team people are from UNCC, the Collegiate Recovery, and CPCC, and I've connected with Jermichael Harris, I believe.
You know, he was on the podcast. Like
Yes,
Friday,
I just
right?
recently was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, you guys had him on from ECU. So it's pretty cool to see that over time going to conferences and getting the word out that really, truly the collegiate recovery programs have been incredibly supportive. And on our committees, we have the local ones in Charlotte,
Awesome.
UNCC
Yeah.
and CPC there. But every year we're also, every other year, we're going to the ARS and the ARHE conferences, the national ones, so that we continue to develop those relationships all around the Southeast so that we can create that bond of kids saying, truly, if you really want to go to a college or university, great, but really you need to go to one that has a collegiate recovery program.
Right.
Don't just think that this is like, I've done a great job through high school and I can do the rest on my own. So that's very important to us. But also what I'm trying to work on right now, I know there's some really cool employers that are very open to working with people no matter where they've been.
Yeah.
So their past doesn't dictate who they are in that moment. And I've heard weird things I would have not thought, but like I've heard Autobell, I've had that thrown out at me, that they work with a wide variety of just anyone who's had maybe any type of background in recovery.
The state in general has really changed policy over the last few years to like open that door for folks,
And that's what it's going to take.
especially in
Yes.
comparison to other states. But what I found is that like it really depends on like the corporation, because like the little company that I work for, again, just like part-time college job just to keep the lights on.
Sure.
You know, because of the work I do in the community and kind of like the position that I hold, we kind of open that door to have conversations with individuals regardless of what
Sure.
is on there.
Right.
Problem is we want to hire them, and we are required to submit a background check in corporate out in Houston, Texas, says, oh, you know,
The red flag goes out the minutes, yeah.
and so like our hands are tied because they won't allow us to
Move forward. Right. So my hope is that in the near future that does seriously change, but then also whatever organizations that currently do exist, that we can start to develop those relationships.
Right.
I'd say that's our next step where I'd love to start pursuing, is finding that continuum of care, because we also want a very strong alumni program so that we can stay very close in touch with kids that do graduate, because again, that piece of whether they go to a collegiate recovery program or they go right into a trade or they serve in the military, that they come back and they truly share their stories of hope, thriving in recovery to our younger kids.
Yeah.
Coming up, right?
Absolutely.
And then, it's awesome you talking about that, because like, you're instilling in these kids that are going through this recovery high school, and then they're graduating. Like a lot of times, most colleges, it talks about it, just how they don't reach out for that help. They feel
Right.
so alone. But then the kids that are going through this recovery high school are already going to know, well, I need to find me a place, like have these different tools in my belt so I can be able to have that success after I leave from this high school.
Right. Talk about like bridging the gap, like how much more comfortable we would all feel if like you end up having, whether it's a college and career day or something, or an alumni frequently, maybe every quarter they visit, right? And they're like, I'm from ECU, I'm from Chapel Hill, I'm from UNCC, and those kids are looking to go to those schools to
Right.
already know someone, a familiar face that's
Yeah.
in the collegiate recovery program.
To already have a relationship established.
Yes. I mean, that's huge to be able to be like, oh, okay, that I'm going to join them, or I'm going to text them, call them before I go, so that they
Yeah.
can introduce me and do that whole, that orientation process that kids love doing in like their senior year of high school. Well, they go though, and they are checking out the recovery community too. So
I just want to get a plug in here. I heard you say military, and I think it was a good
Oh.
time to sit here and
Yeah.
talk
Good
about
point.
the veterans and give them a shout out, because it's because of them we're sitting here having this podcast, and we got this
Absolutely.
freedom of speech, and we can get on here and talk about these things. And so shout out veterans, anybody that served. Thank you for your service and
Thank
sacrifice.
you for your
Absolutely.
service. Woo.
We'll be following up tonight with a 7
Right.
p.m. Veterans Day special podcast.
The double threat.
The double threat. What do we say?
I forgot. Double header.
Double header.
A doubleheader.
A double header podcast today. But yeah, definitely thank you guys for your service. We work closely with the 2 collegiate recovery programs here in town at Western Carolina University, and then we started our own last fall at SCC, the community college that I attend, and it's come a long way in 1 year. Just the collegiate recovery communities in general have
Sure.
come a long way with those national level conferences and kind of the interactions that we've been able to continue throughout the year, and guys like Jay Harris that I talk to regularly and kind of like bounce ideas off of, because it's a whole nother world in what he's doing at like this big campus compared to like what we're doing out here.
true.
Different barriers and different things like that, but to be able to collaborate with guys like that, to be able to collaborate with some other folks through ARHE and like
Mhm.
leadership training and stuff like that.
Yeah, do you know, I don't know if the name Chris Campo ring a
Mhm.
bell? Yeah, Chris is on our committee too.
Yeah.
So having these key people who just are collegiate recovery all over our state truly makes a difference.
I think the importance of that transition
Yes,
is,
I agree.
and that they're not just like on your own to apply to the college of your choosing, like
Right.
that they already have those connections, those relationships
Mm-hmm.
built. What type of, I mean, you mentioned that, who was it, one of the law enforcement agencies said that they could fill your classrooms.
Oh yeah, the DEA.
DEA,
Mhm.
like, do you intend to serve just the general Charlotte community, or are you kind of
Oh, it's-
opening up to the state, or like,
Oh, so it's such
how
a
are
good
you
question.
going to decide, like,
So we've entertained.
because Caleb's got a couple bus loads he'll ship out to you next week.
Yeah, and like,
Yeah.
what does it cost?
Okay. Oh, so this is all good questions. So these have been 2 very key questions that I need more and more people to better understand. So we've entertained private, charter, public school collaboration, right? And so we've really, truly looked at everything and done our homework. And we ended up leaning towards private. And when you say private, though, it scares a lot of people. A lot of people have this perception, and that's another thing I'm trying to break is perception, because just listen and be open-minded to hear what it is. Because private, everybody thinks, well, you're only serving a certain population. You're going to be ultra expensive. And that's the harder route, so why would you go that way? And the truth of the matter is, private provides freedom and flexibility for us to do what we need to do for these kids. Public dollars right now hold way too many strings attached, make it 10 times more difficult to get the door open. They may help long-term sustainability, but they're going to put so many restrictions on you that at the beginning, you may not be able to do everything you need to do to truly show what a recovery high school is supposed to be. So that was our big push for private. And charter would also make us take longer to open, and we are feeling that sense of urgency. So that was that. When it comes to the cost, here's the best thing I can't wait to explain. So the goal, here's the goal. The goal is, with an operating budget of about $500,000 is what we're looking at, to have about 6 teachers and 20 kids in year 1, because I want to serve 20 well and then let us grow organically. But if we serve 20 well, on paper, if they each gave $2,000 a month for 12 months, that's about $24,000. You multiply that for 20 kids, that's almost covering our entire operating budget strictly on tuition, which puts a lot less pressure on fundraising and grant writing, but it leaves enough room that you do still need to do those things, but it's definitely a different level of comfort, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if we could get startup money just to get off the ground, enough money that would cover so that almost every family of those 20 pays maybe $50 a month, maybe. And that's asking us to cover the operating budget. The goal is for families to, on paper, be paying $2,000, but almost every single family being scholarshiped in, because this shouldn't be another expense for families to dive into what they've probably paid for treatment already and thrown so much money that breaking the bank. But we also know reality. We're going to be serving some families that can afford that. So what we're looking to do is have a sliding scale once we're up and running and sustaining. So that we may be serving some families that can help pay for it, and then there'll be families that'll be fully, if not almost 100% scholarshiped in, because we've also learned you need to have a little bit of skin in the game, no matter what that looks like. If that's $5 a month, that could mean a lot to that family, then that's what you're paying our school. But we know, too, there are organizations that are way more open to fund us for a kid's scholarship for a year than give us $500,000 to get open and running, which I also understand. So if we can show thriving success with just that startup money, just to get us up off the ground, to pay for our staff, pay for our lease, pay for our kids in the first year or two, I firmly believe not only will these first kids going in for pretty much for free to this school, but the truth of the matter is we're opening up doors for success and scholarship for kids. And how many people give to organizations, but if you can attach an actual child's success at a recovery high school to that scholarship, it's a game changer.
One that's measurable.
So measurable, and tracking with them, you know, not to think comparing by any means to the commercials you see about, you know, give a couple cents a day, but it really pulls at your heart to say, I do want to give to this because I can see the impact on an actual person.
In your own backyard.
In your own backyard. And this is the cool thing about being private as well. If you can get to our school, you can apply to our school. So if you're in Fort Mill, Indian Land, all parts of North Carolina, I'll tell you, if it was my child, I'd probably drive anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours to and from if it was the only recovery high school in the state. Right. I would get my kid there. So that you start looking at what that radius looks like of touching, and it's not even close to just saying secluding just to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. We're talking Houston, Texas has a young lady who takes a bus for almost an hour and a half to and from. And so clearly she's over 70 miles from that school, but she wants that school. So that's what's really awesome about if your recovery high school community decides to go private. It is a harder route, to be honest, but it's going to get the doors open faster. You're going to be able to serve the kids the way you need to serve them. Right. And if you honestly talk about it in the way that you are scholarshiping kids and that we're here to serve all kids under the private model, that's almost unheard of, that you're serving every type of family of every socioeconomic status level at a private school with a private, I mean, that's, people look at me sometimes like, wait,
there's nobody doing that recovery or not, right? Just private school in general.
And so that's what I'm trying to teach people, because sometimes when people hear private, they've created their criteria for certain things, and if you say private, you're automatically moved away. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You need to understand what we're trying to do here. We're trying to provide such a flexible setting for these kids that in our society and the way platforms have been created, this is the way. Yeah. But if you are open-minded to say, well, we can actually not have a family pay out of pocket maybe more than a few bucks a month, that's tremendous. Yeah. And so that's where we're headed.
You open those doors with that in complete that first class,
Yep.
and you will have the private donations to fund those scholarships.
No doubt in my
because
mind.
of the success. There's no doubt
Mhm.
about it. You also think they also like the misperception of like private schools like faith based,
Yeah.
completely faith based, like specific denomination and that sort of thing. And I saw that you guys were like non-denominational
Right.
with the spiritual.
And this is the cool thing. So being a believer,
Mhm.
it's going to be hard at times to not throw my faith in every direction, but it will be done through my actions. So I really believe that my faith will be driven in a very important way. Maybe it's strategic. I don't know if that's the right word, but we know these are kids. These are adolescents. So some kids, if you just approach faith in a way, you're going to make them run away. And I don't want kids to run away, but I also don't want to be untrue to who I am and what is really true also. So to me, my actions are going to speak.
Come on.
I really do believe that the environment we create that's going to be all about love, that they may have never, ever been a part of before. They'll just feel it in every ounce of us. They won't even have to ask, do you believe? Or what is your faith? Because it'll be written all over what we do in that school. So we will be providing 12-step support for kids who are going that route. But we're also going to be saying, look, here are the requirements of our school in terms of you need to go to meetings. That's part of your plan. But what meetings you go to, that's on you. But we're going to provide support for all of the different types that you want to go that are in our area, which in our area, there's not a lot to really
No?
choose from. I mean, there's a few.
I would think that in Charlotte there'd
Yeah.
be.
Well, the most common, so I won't say that there aren't exist, but most kids find success and young people are finding success through the 12-step, just to be honest. So when the majority I know are going to come from that, maybe smart recovery, people have thrown at me refuge.
What's
and
smart recovery? You know what smart recovery?
Smart recovery? Yeah. It's like
Is that like the goal set?
it's like the goal setting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Goal
is.
setting,
Yep.
crosstalk kind of deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Now, do they have faith-based groups down there for kids?
all the 12-step ones are. But for kids, it's not. There aren't any that are just for
Specific.
kids.
Right. Okay.
That's what I'm hoping to also
Right.
develop.
Like life
through this.
recovery and celebrate recovery, that type
Celebrate
of stuff.
recovery is definitely, but that's part of what I need to do in my homework is strengthen my knowledge, because I've dealt with an eating disorder that's different
Yeah.
than substance use in a way.
I'm
But
involved in the Refuge Recovery Fellowship. I have
Mhm.
been since 2014, and one of the advantages of it too is it is a non-theistic approach, and it is open to addictions of all kinds, whether it's an eating disorder, whether it's a substance use, whether it's a behavioral issue. It also welcomes young folks. The groups over in Asheville, they have treatment centers, the wilderness therapy, adolescent treatment centers. They bring them in all the time. Like they welcome young individuals, and I do know there are a few out there as like somewhat of an alternative. But young people's 12-step, I mean,
yeah,
if you get it going, if there's not a lot there, start, have somebody create one of the staff members or whoever it might be, and your kids will
Sure.
thrive.
I think so too. And I think there are some young people on our committee that can help build that resource platform, just to say here are the meetings that we've attended or think that are really awesome for young people. Go, here's your options, go there. So that'll be a big part of our faith component, is definitely attending meetings, but really the faith being something greater, your higher power. You define what that means, but we're here to support a faith-based approach. If
And
that's
even
your-
work with you to help you discover what
Oh,
that is.
absolutely, right. And that's what having the recovery support staff, my goal is to have them really, truly, they are thriving in recovery themselves, so they
Okay.
can provide a true peer-to-peer feedback.
Are you going to have any kind of Christian type programs, like specifically, instead of just like 12-step?
Well, specifically because we're going to say that we're non-denominational, we're not going to necessarily have a program that everybody would have to go through.
Right. But
But
you have an option.
offering,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
It's funny, when we first started the podcast, we didn't have all this equipment. Like this was funded by our audience and listeners
That's
through
awesome.
Kickstarter.
Mhm.
And so at the very beginning, we didn't know what the heck we were doing, right? We were just like some guys talking. So we didn't even own like headphones.
What did we start out with?
The equipment. We didn't use headphones over at Western at the university.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But like, so there was like, because the headphones really help you. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming we're around the same age. So like, you talk on the telephone, you can kind of like learn to talk back and forth without talking over each other. The headphones like help with that.
Totally.
Maybe you didn't use the phone. You didn't use the phone. You're too young. But when we weren't wearing the headphones, we were like kind of talking over each other a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
And it's not like that big of a deal. It just makes it difficult for like the editing kind of peaks and stuff.
Sure.
And so we weren't doing a whole lot of video, but we were like doing some hand signals. That's why Caleb keeps raising his hand every time he has a question, because he's like, we did it for so long last year at
that's funny.
At the very beginning. How can organizations like NCRAW, like Res Hope, like, whoever in the community, how can they support you? How can they be a part of what you guys are doing?
Can I share?
Yes, you
I
can.
know what you're going to say.
Do you? Because okay.
Just share the her post, the message that I thought she was going to say.
No,
right?
but I'll tell you in a minute.
Sorry, because I'd asked you this several times.
Yeah.
Messaging her personally, like, how can we help? Go ahead.
Sure. Well, initially, people just truly being involved in our social media, our website, and attending events that we have would be great. But I was actually thinking of a conversation that Caleb and I had about how so many organizations are really trying to do the same thing across our state, and then they're not as well attended as they should be. How cool would it be if we could collaborate on a much more strategic level as a state, where we hold maybe quarterly meetings where we all just suck it up and we take a certain day that most of us can meet, because we know all of us can't on the same day, but most of us can meet, and we create a powerful event or two that we all are involved in, and we rotate across the state where it's held. Because the truth is, that's how I think we're going to show the community at large how big of an issue this is, but just how many people are involved in the movement. That when you have pockets here of like 20, 30 people, that's cool. But imagine we all got together in the fall and the spring. To me, that can move mountains, as opposed to us trying to like really give it our all. I think a lot of us will die out, sadly, because of feeling like I can't anymore, or it's too much. But if we can build each other up and do a bigger, bolder, more impressive event as a state, that's kind of where I would love to be a part of. That this is so much bigger than even just a recovery high school movement in Charlotte. It's about creating a community across our state that understands all of the resources that do exist. And then when you go and conquer on your own, you just have more tools at you. And the people, we know our recovery community quite well across our state, but I feel like there's so many more people that I'm hearing and I'm meeting every day. They're like, feed me, give me more. I want to be a part of it. Tell me what I can do. We would get that times 10 if we created this type of environment across the state.
Please include us.
Okay,
in
got
those
it.
conversations. We will.
I think it's something that
I think that's huge. I mean, there's something that there are people in your community that can bring to the table in our community, same as going towards the coast of North Carolina.
And not like a formal conference, like just whether it's I know Raleigh did an awesome job. I think it was for August 31st for International Overdose Awareness Day, and I felt like I was being invited to 60 different things, and I couldn't be everywhere at once, but I'm like, we're across the state doing so many different events. Let's just do one huge one.
The same thing happened here.
Did you go to
I didn't go to the one in Raleigh because I felt like my tie was to Charlotte, and my good friend was doing something in Charlotte, and I felt like I got to be there.
You remember the same thing happened here? Like there was one over in Franklin, and then there was one over in Waynesville, and then you guys were in Cherokee, and we were all like at different events. He was over at one, I was over at one. And
you try to divide and conquer, but imagine we could all do one huge one, and we split it up so that we are like in essence owning an event, but maybe every 5 years. Because we also know how much work it is to do it annually. What if like you guys were in charge of the next year, and then Charlotte took on the next year, but we all came.
Committed to
going to yours.
I'm gonna support you. You support me, and let's do this.
Yep.
And that's why I started this. That's why I started this podcast, because there were so many I thought it was a way to unite those little pockets. It's so rural.
Sure.
It's so rural here. And there's like small groups of people in this little town over yonder, 10 or 12 doing good
Over
work.
yonder.
And then there's like a little pocket of people over here doing work, and then a little
Yeah.
pocket on campus doing work, and then their little community. But there's like, they're not inclusive
And then
together.
inevitably, I feel like you do feel that competitive thing. And you're like, oh, I don't want that. Join.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it makes me think about the panel discussions.
Y'all
So many panel discussions, but why don't we all just come together?
Y'all hear that New York come out of her when she gets fired up?
Uh,
Huh? Did you hear it?
Yeah.
I tell people when I'm angry or really excited, that's
Yeah.
when the kids will be like, what'd you just say? Walk? Coffee? Like what?
Am I supposed to tell you when it's 12:30?
What time is it?
12:28.
Then yes, I
Oh.
guess.
You got somebody waiting outside, or?
We have an
Yes.
event coming up in January called Day One. We haven't got the location or the exact. It's either going to be New Year's Day or that Saturday, which is I think on the 6th, 5th. Anyways, we're doing an event over at one of the gyms in Asheville. We would love to have you attend, and we're going to try to have News 13 there. So like you can talk about what you're doing down in Charlotte, with the school and everything.
That
and
would be awesome.
It's going to be we're going to do an intro class, like some exercises, some yoga, beginners yoga, and then do a walk around a block
Wow.
and set some goals for 2019.
Awesome.
And our friend Tom Shanahan, who is from New York City, he wrote a book called Spiritual Adrenaline Strength and Nurse Your Recovery.
Wow.
It's about to hit the shelves of Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and so he's going to be doing a book signing. And, yeah, we're just gonna,
That would be wonderful.
I would definitely
I'd
keep
love
you in the
to
loop.
attend. Please do. Please do.
And please invite us to anything that's happening at
Yes.
the school. Just because, like, I
Absolutely.
would be totally down to drag all this stuff out there.
Oh,
and
that would be
do
fabulous.
a little something and talk to y'all. You mentioned potentially in the near
yeah.
future
Super near.
announcing a
Mhm.
location.
So yeah, tonight.
You know I'm fishing, right?
Tonight, our local news channel is going to be coming in and talking with my committee, and then we're going to hopefully go to the church space this week, and we're going to officially announce the location, because that's a game changer conversation to tell our community this isn't just a dream. We're not stopping, so
Right.
we're taking another step forward, and this church space is incredible, and they're perfect, and we're officially going to start getting on in there in early spring. Regardless if we have the funding, we're just going to start believing and feeling like it's as real as if we are opening no matter what. So
Awesome.
yeah, very excited. Stay tuned for that announcement.
How close are you to Huntersville?
Not too far, 40 minutes.
We're coming
From-
down there next month. There's a big half marathon. Do
Oh,
you and Vinny run?
We,
What a run.
we used to be active, like lifting weights and crazy, but
He will pressure you into it, I promise.
we're both the
Y'all,
most.
we're coming down there. We're going to come down there early, and I was going to ride the course and everything. Maybe we can get together. For
I think
dinner
that would definitely we should do.
Okay.
I don't know about the running
We'll
part.
be well, y'all maybe y'all come and support us.
That's a great plan.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
because we don't ever have
That's-
anybody come and support us. We're trying to get
Well,
Rob to come out.
sometimes your
Well,
mom
yeah.
comes
Yeah.
out, and my mom and internet came all the way to Oklahoma, but
Rob needs to come
a
out
lot of
sometime
races.
with the show, man.
To a race.
To a big one, like
Be
a 50
awesome.
miler or something.
Yeah, that would
And
be
we'll
really
eat good too, because we'll be carving up.
That's
so.
true. That's true.
The night
Right.
before the races are always the best nights to catch us for dinner.
How can people find you, support you, love on you?
Sure. So our website is www.emeraldschool.org, and we're on all social media platforms from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have a GoFundMe page. You type in Emerald School of Excellence, it'll come right up, and we're just looking for any support in any way would be wonderful, and sharing us and educating people just through our sharing would be absolutely wonderful.
What's your go ahead, Rob. Go ahead. Okay. What's your message to potential funders? Like what is it that you want to say to them to get them to sow into this school?
So to me, this school is going to be not just a game changer for our communities, but for families and generations to come, and that your dollars aren't going towards just just any cause or advocacy movement, you're going towards literally a kid's education and their recovery, thriving in recovery, and potentially saving their life. And again, you know, when you save one person's life in recovery, you're saving that family, their future husbands and wives. So you end up then recreating a generation of nothing but hope and love. And so that's really, truly where your dollars go. It's far beyond a single payment. It's a life-changing, community-changing event. So,
Come on.
Dollars of blessings.
Dollars of blessings.
I love that. That's awesome.
I think we would all agree that the work you are doing is absolutely
Yes.
phenomenal, and you have our
Thank you.
full support. And anything that we can do, do not hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
And let us know.
Last closing thoughts. I was watching
You're
y'all.
amazing.
I was watching y'all go when you were just talking earlier. I was like, man,
He kept
it's so
kept
cool.
looking over at me.
Two women of God over there hashing it out for real.
I can truly say that, you know, iron sharpens iron, and, you know, I haven't, you truly have, you've shared your knowledge and your power with me, and I feel very empowered. I'm, like I said, I'm ready to go out there and probably start a soup
Well,
house.
We're
Thank
going
you.
soup house. We have a recovery house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting ready to have our second board meeting, and we have a date. We're wanting to be open by spring of 2019, and it's going to be able to. We're going to be able to. I don't want to say house 8 men because it sounds like you're holding them against their will, but
Sure.
for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
right at this moment,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be able to help 8 men in recovery, coming out of jail, rehab, detox, and another big announcement. Remember what Mom was telling? The woman, you know, the house right beside the recovery house, that little bitty like hip home, Rob.
What?
It's like right beside the recovery house at the top of the hill.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah,
woman is she's an elder lady, and she's donating her house.
Wow.
Wow.
So we'll have
Both of them.
both houses.
That's sad.
And now check this out. The Lord really laid this on my heart. There's a church right behind there. My dad built that church.
What?
And I'm coming into pastoring, and they'll have the 2 houses right there, and then a church that's not really they don't use it a whole lot. So I feel like the Lord's
That's
told
the-
me that's
Pulling
my
you.
that's my church.
That's the Res Hope Church.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah,
That's
this
really
right,
special.
You really inspired us
That's
to. We wrote down our potential vision boards, our vision boards that we got to start working on with our ministry and everything. So we
Beautiful.
definitely
Yeah, I'd love
thank
to.
you for encouraging us and
Yeah,
everything.
stay in touch and bounce ideas. That's how we grow.
Absolutely.
So,
Mary
you
Ferreri,
so
you are
much.
amazing.
Yes.
Appreciate you
are.
both.
Yes,
Thank you for
thanks
everything.
that.
We'll do it again.
Oh.
Thank you guys for checking us out. Good afternoon, good night. Talk to you later.